question that seems to date back to, what, like 1993, I guess? But it still applies. Do they care? Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Pirates. Comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or hockey, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins in the same place that you found this. Listen, I know I'm not exactly breaking fresh ground in bringing up this specific subject. It's the kind of thing that people will just say out loud in pretty much any given negative setting related to this franchise. But I've got something I think is a little bit different. I want to see somebody over the course of the 2024 season, or even beforehand, get mad. You know, throw some food around the clubhouse. Cuss somebody out. Cuss me out if I'm in there. But show some emotion. Show some semblance of competitive spirit. You know I'm not talking about the players, right? You know that. Okay, good. Because this most definitely is not about the players. I like the overall makeup of the chemistry of this club. I really do. Understanding that there's, a handful of new faces in there. They're going to have to become assimilated and so forth. But I look back at the 2023 season with not all of that many positive thoughts, but one of them was definitely that the team did not fade. The team did not call it quits early. They continued competing through August, especially into September. And even with a dearth of pitching, they found a way to scrap out some wins. No, I'm actually talking about everybody over them. Derek Shelton, I've asked him about this. I've asked him actually a lot of times how he handles a rough situation without just every once in a blue moon freaking out. And by the way, I don't count going after an umpire. That's almost a rehearsed, staged thing at this point in baseball. There's certain times when the manager is just expected to go have a tirade and get tossed because he's protecting his players or whatever. I don't count that at all. I do count coming into a post-game setting, whether it's with the players out of our view or even right there in front of reporters, just saying that effort was unacceptable. That was lousy. I'm not going to put up with that ever again. Again, these are rare incidents anyway, so I'm not overstating any aspect of the players and how they feel. This is about Shelton. This is really, ultimately, about Ben Cherington. The most common question, or even just a comment or a conversation starter that's been thrown my way this winter, is why don't they do fill in the blank? To which I have just begun to pretty much blindly answer, because they are not competitive people. And specifically related to Cherington, if he has a competitive streak, then it's not related to wins and losses at the big league level. Does that make any sense when I say that? Because, well, then if he has a competitive streak about something else, what could it possibly be? You have to understand that over the last, I was going to say 10, it's more like 15 or 20 years, baseball's changed. The people running baseball teams, their tone and tenor has changed. Everything is super cool, super smooth, super analytical. Never get too high, never get too low. Don't put too much weight in a winning streak. Don't get too upset about a losing streak. And by God, whatever you do, don't take a 20-8 start seriously and think that you might want to augment that team. Whereas, remember the infamous video of the Pirates winning the draft lottery and everybody going around the room high-fiving each other and showing all this emotion? You want to know something? This is their 5th year as a management group. That remains the only emotion that people who follow this team have seen. Even for a split second, there hasn't been a game, there hasn't been a moment, there hasn't been a big trade acquisition. There hasn't been anything where you've seen with your own eyes, or for that matter, even heard from Cherington where you go, whoa, hey, he's really into this. Other than that, a reward for losing so much that they won something. So they can say whatever it is that they want going into 2024. We intend to compete. We intend to contend. We're trying to win our division and all this other stuff. Take it seriously only when you see them start taking it seriously. When we come back, J1Q. This portion of Daily Shot of Pirates is brought to you by our friends at North Shore Tavern. That's directly across Federal Street from PNC Park. It's home of Steak on a Stone, an eating experience, underscoring the word experience. The steak is brought to you partially cooked on an 800-degree stone, and you do the rest. It's a ton of fun, it's a great meal, and it's a baseball atmosphere like no other in Pittsburgh. North Shore Tavern, right across Federal Street from PNC Park.
Your front door, your car, your bike, your computer, your gun. Safety is a habit. Every day you lock and secure your home and everything you want to keep safe. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Visit ProjectChildSafe.org. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Today's J1Q comes from Phil, who says, yeah, DK, it's a hard no from me on Trevor Bauer. Between the medical professionals that you cited and reading the accusations from the 4 women who've come forward, it's not even a possibility in my mind. The woman where the lawsuits were dropped is just one of 4 pretty disgusting accusations. People need to understand that what he's accused of is above and beyond what's been resolved. I got a pretty mixed reaction, Phil. I always get a little bit cringy whenever there's an excessive reaction instinctively or reflexively defending the male in such cases, as if to say, hey, it's just a guy being a guy or whatever. I saw some remarks that were along the lines of, hey, he's paid his price, let him be. I saw others attempting to compare what Bauer's been accused of with, other maybe isolated acts or, things that were just connected to the Pirates, as if I would care at all whether this was a Pirate or not. But the one that jumped out is the one that you addressed here yourself, Phil, and I'm glad that you did, which is everyone kept citing the single case in which the woman was completely busted for having attempted to extort Bauer. And I mean, beyond any doubt, that did happen. That absolutely has to be the reason that Major League Baseball then went and reduced his suspension from the original 324 games to allow him to be eligible, since he'd already put in almost 200 of those games. But understand that Bauer wasn't absolved or cleared or had the record stricken or anything like that. Baseball's position was that the suspension was over, not that it was rescinded. Baseball's investigation was independent. It had nothing to do with any police work or charges filed or anything in the legal world. Baseball did its own homework and came away with evidence that apparently was so strong and so convincing that he's still not playing. And in fact, when his suspension was reduced and thus ended, the very first official act following that suspension being reduced was taken by the Dodgers to immediately and unconditionally release him. They wanted nothing to do with him, even though they, more than any other team, would have had a green light. They would have said, hey, he's been green lighted. He can come back now. Everything's cool. You know why they did what they did? Because they know a lot more than we do. You know why Major League Baseball initially issued a 324-game suspension? A figure that's so preposterous that I have to say it again to you just for emphasis. 324-game suspension. Know why they did that? Because they have more information than any of us do. And by the way, that information's never been released. That information has not been made public in any form. And if you think, or anybody thinks, not you, Phil, that the Pirates having a weak link in their starting rotation is worth having someone like that around, wow, go outside, touch grass, look at the sun. Well, don't look directly into the sun. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Pirates today, all week long, and we'll be back with another one of these on Monday.